recently came back from New York Fashion Week and I shot my entire trip on this guy, the Fuji X100VI. So let's talk about it. Now, Fuji did send me this camera as a loaner camera for this trip down to New York. And like I mentioned, I shot everything from street photography to shows to outfit, fit check photos in Soho. Everything and anything was shot on the Fuji X100VI. Now, if you guys saw my unboxing of this camera, you guys do know that I used to have the Fuji X100V, but I actually sold that camera a long time ago because I felt that it had a lot of operational limitations when it came to me as a professional photographer using this smaller, more compact body for more casual use cases. And so even though I wanted the Fuji X100V to be a pro level camera, it never really just lived up to that. Now, before even getting the X100VI, the one that Fuji sent me here, I was kind of skeptical on whether or not the advancements on paper were going to actually make a difference in enjoyment that I had using this camera. But I can definitely and confidently say that I much prefer having the X100VI over the X100V. I actually just wrote a blog post for Moment Camera, kind of documenting a few different stories about my time at New York Fashion Week shooting it on the X100VI. You can go read that. I'll put the link down in the description below. And down there, I describe how this camera, even though it's always kind of labeled as a prosumer level camera, this camera definitely leans more pro than consumer, in my opinion. I'll preface this whole video with saying that I have not dabbled into the video capabilities of this camera. I've only stuck to photo because I knew that I was going to be using the photo capabilities probably 99% of the time anyways, so I didn't even bother going down the rabbit hole of video. But to the best of my understanding, the video capabilities are amazing on this camera, especially when compared to its predecessor. So if I still have time with this camera before I have to send it back to Fuji, maybe I'll take some videos and test that out as well. Now, along with the camera, Fuji also sent along the wide conversion kit and the tele conversion kit, which really kind of opened up the camera to new possibilities, ones that I'm usually used to with my camera like the Sony a7 IV, where I can obviously interchange the lenses to any focal length or lens that I want. Having the wide conversion and the tele conversion on the X100VI really opened that door for me. In fact, I found myself almost always leaning for either the tele or the wide conversion lens over the built-in lens. Even though the built-in 35mm lens is a great everyday fastball down the middle, I either wanted to shoot portraits, which I was putting on the tele conversion lens for at 50mm, or I wanted to shoot a bit more of a documentary style wide angle at 28mm with the wide conversion lens. If you guys are new here, definitely hit that subscribe button, but if you have watched my videos in the past, then you know that I don't go too deeply into the tech specs of the cameras that I use. I just speak on my experience actually shooting with the cameras and the final images, the final output that I get with them. Immediately after looking at these photos on the computer or even on my phone, you can definitely tell the difference in resolution from the predecessor. They are way higher resolution. The dynamic range seems to be much better in the new one, and the photos all around just feel a lot more professional grade over more of a consumer level camera. Of course, all the fun with this camera is with the film simulations, which I did enjoy playing around with. Most of the time I stuck with a film simulation like Kodachrome 64 or Portrait 400, but I also shot with a bunch of HP5 400 black and white film simulation as well, all of which I got from Fuji X Weekly and then kind of dialed it into my exact flavor after. Even though the ergonomics of the camera are basically the same as the predecessor, it's the same size and button layout and all that, the buttons and controls, to me at least, feel a bit snappier than before. The shutter button, the focus, navigating around the different menus, for whatever reason, it feels snappier. Maybe that's a placebo, not gonna lie to you, but it does feel like a better user experience overall. And I think a lot of that, at the end of the day, just has to do with the fact that I think the pictures look better on this camera compared to the V. I will say one of the limitations that I had with the previous version and this one and any camera kind of in the same realm is the fact that because I'm so used to my full mirrorless camera, the Sony a7 IV, where I can swap out lenses to be any focal length at any time. The limiting factor with cameras like this is that I'm stuck between either the built-in lens or one of two conversion lenses that I can get, but both of which are also really expensive, and then you're limited to only 3 different focal lengths. Is that enough? Yes, for most people, but sometimes you want more. For example, recently I've been shooting lots of pictures at 85mm, even deeper at 150 to 200mm, which is just not possible with a camera like this. Now, obviously, that's not really the point of this camera. The point of this camera is to be a fun run and gun, street style or travel memory maker or journalistic tool. It's not really meant to be an actual workhorse camera that has the full breadth of options available. So once I took my mindset out of that avenue and shifted it towards what is this camera actually used for, I found that I was enjoying it much more than before. And then the number one thing above all else that I love this camera for is how inconspicuous it is. When you're going out shooting people in public, it is so much less intimidating to have this camera over a bigger camera like my Sony. And even the Sony isn't even big with a lens attached, in my opinion, but there's something about the look and the feel and the aura that the camera gives off that either says, hey, I'm a paparazzi, I just want to take a picture of you, versus this is more of a passion of mine, I'm an artist, I want to take a picture of you. I had a few different run-ins with people that I really look up to in New York, people that are in all kinds of different spaces, and every single time I had the Fuji strapped around my neck, that person would compliment my camera before anything else. They would say, oh, this camera, or like, oh, a cool looking camera, and I would explain to them what kind of camera it is, like, oh no, it's digital, not film, all this stuff. But it kind of broke down this wall that I'm not just another paparazzi trying to get a photo of them with my big clunky camera. This is just more of a passion-focused camera. And frankly, that's the truth. That's literally what this camera is designed for, and for that reason, I absolutely love it. Couple that with the fact that the pictures are so much higher quality now compared to the predecessor, I think this camera is actually for most people out there. So if you're looking at this camera and debating whether or not it's for you, well, first of all, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to dish out the $1,500 to $2,000 that this camera costs? And if so, ask yourself, well, what's the purpose of me buying this camera? For me, I would own this camera as a complement to my workhorse camera, especially when I'm traveling and just going out on the streets, shooting things or people or just making memories. If you're looking to do more commercial work with this camera, I would say maybe lean towards a camera like the X-T5 in the Fuji lineup at least, where you can have much more flexibility with lenses and whatnot down the road. This guy is definitely not built specifically for commercial work. If you already have a workhorse camera like me, then I think this camera is a great secondary add-on to bring with you when you're traveling. And would I choose this one over the Fuji X100VI, the predecessor to this guy? Yes, I would. Although you can probably get the V much more readily available and probably for a lot cheaper than the 6 by now, I do think the advancements in the 6 make this well worth the money, the difference in price from the predecessor, and you will notice the difference right out the gate. I mean, obviously, if you haven't used both, you might not notice the difference, but trust me, there is a big difference. And this new guy, this is where it's at. If you guys want to read that article I wrote for Moment Camera, the link will be down in the description below. But that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts on the Fuji X100VI. I absolutely loved my experience shooting with this camera, and I even loved the photos that much more. Thank you so much, Fujifilm Canada, for sending me this camera. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.